Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever edition of the Kickin Out Of Kayfabe podcast. I am your host Adam and I am a wrestling fan I've been watching for I think over a year now. That's the introduction for me. You'll probably get to know me a little bit more as we go on with these episodes because my opinions differ from, I guess, the run-of-the-mill wrestling fan. Anyway, I am doing a special episode here today. The first ever edition of the Kickin Out Of Kayfabe podcast is a review for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. I am a poet in the making already. Last night's pay-per-view was one of the best of the Big Five. When I say Big Five, I say WrestleMania, Money in the Bank, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, and SummerSlam. It is probably the third best, maybe the second best. The best, of course, is Royal Rumble. WrestleMania is close behind. The other two are a bit, depending on your view on them. But last night's pay-per-view was actually, in my opinion, it was decent. In a lot of other people's opinion, it wasn't. But let's get into the review. Before we get into the review, actually, I'm rambling and I'm stumbling over my words, but that's fine. Before we get into this review of this pay-per-view, I decided to do this pay-per-view review first before going into Raw and SmackDown and anything else, because it's a good starting point. A pay-per-view is a good starting point because after this it's like you have new storylines, you have new matchups, whatever, or you have old matchups if you're on Raw. But first, let's kick off with the kickoff match, the Hype Bros vs the Colognes. This match was actually pretty decent. It was Zack Ryder's return to action since he was injured in that over-the-top Battle Royale to crown a new number one contender for the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. And the match overall, in my opinion, was decent. It was kind of like an average pay-per-view match. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. It wasn't, breaking a certain wrestling rating system like other matches were previously or in previous weeks. The match shouldn't have been on the pre-show in hindsight. Really, another match that's on the card, which is very high up on the card and shouldn't have been as high up on the card as it was, should have been in this place. And in Ryder's return match should have been at least the second or third match on the card rather than a certain other tag team match that was on the card. As I said, the match was pretty good. Nothing really to say about it other than Zack Ryder was targeted by it was one of the Colognes that they targeted his bad leg, and then Mojo came in, and as Mojo Rawley is the greatest man that ever lived, he of course won the match for them basically. The actual show kicked off with the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and this was between Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Tamina and Carmella, and of course Natalya as well. I forgot to mention that the first match on the card was between the Hype Bros and the Colognes. This is the first time I'm ever recording a podcast, so yeah, as I said, I will stumble over my words, I will stammer, I will ramble, whatever. Anyway, the first match on the main card, the real card, the only card, was the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. And this match was a decent enough match. It was probably one of the most entertaining matches on the card. Not for the actual match, more for how it ended. The only thing that I can really remember from this match is when Natalya slammed Becky Lynch onto a ladder. And that was really the most hardcore thing that happened. There was a really good spot where Carmella hit a Hurricane Rana off a ladder to Lynch, and it looked really, really good. The only thing that really ruined this match for me wasn't the finish. It wasn't how Ellsworth climbed the ladder and picked the briefcase and removed it and then gave it to Carmella. It was a chance that the fans were doing. It was, this is awesome, 3 minutes into the actual match. Yeah, that's kind of, a bit too, you jump in the gun a little bit there, Smarks. But anyway, the match, it was fine. The ending was really funny. I don't see anything wrong with it. The only thing I see wrong with the match, not the ending, the match, is it should have gone longer. It should have gone 10 minutes more than it was. I think it only went 8 minutes. I think it didn't go that long. I think it may have gone 10 minutes. It didn't go that long. The ending was really funny, but like nothing really big happened throughout the entire thing. Ellsworth didn't take a bump. Tamina didn't do a splash off the ladder, through a ladder. No moonsaults. There was an interesting, I guess, splash that Charlotte did, but it wasn't anything amazing, and there wasn't enough of it. There wasn't enough fire to go around in this match. The second match on the card is probably my favourite match on the card. The Usos vs the New Day for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. It was Big E and Kofi Kingston representing the New Day, and of course Jimmy and Jay Uso for the Uso family. This match was actually really good. It was really fun. It was really fast. I always forget that the SOS is Kofi Kingston's finisher, and Kofi Kingston's my favourite wrestler. So that shows you how much I know about that finisher. Yeah, that's a good bit of information there. Anyway, the New Day won via countout because the Usos basically rolled out the ring and then stayed there for 10 seconds. That's how countout victories work, if you didn't know. There was a really good spot though. Basically, the last time the Usos and the New Day have fought or had a match together, 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, in a tag team title match, was back at the Royal Rumble 2016, a pay-per-view which I actually rewatched recently, and the pay-per-view's alright. The unmemorable thing is when AJ Styles debuted, but there was a really good spot, and it's actually how that match ended, I believe, between the Usos and the New Day, and one of the Usos went for a splash on Kofi. Big E tagged himself in. The other Uso didn't know. He used the big ending on him as if it was a Pokemon move. Nice. And he won that way, or the team won that way. That happened again in this, but in this time the other Uso managed to pull him out the ring, and I'm surprised that Tom Phillips or JBL or someone didn't say about that. I did say, that's a callback to their Royal Rumble match or anything like that, but that's kind of maybe more of an eagle-eyed fan, or that I've kind of watched that pay-per-view recently. The Usos retained the titles, so yeah. The Usos winning here is good because it basically means that the New Day can get a second chance. They don't need to have one match and it's done type thing. A bit like another person on this card. However, I really do believe that the Hype Bros are going to take those titles from the Usos. I don't think Breezango don't need the titles currently. It's going to be a real feel-good moment when they do. I'm not the biggest fan of Breezango. I don't really think they're funny, but when they do eventually get those titles, it'll be a big moment for them. But I think the Hype Bros will win those titles before Breezango, and it's mainly all down to the fact that Zack Ryder got injured going for those belts. And yeah, also I did forget to talk about Carmella winning the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and as I have said, and I will say it again, just trying to reinforce it, that I'm recording a podcast for the first ever time, and I'm going to be jumping all over the place because I haven't written anything down or anything. So yeah, Carmella winning, we're going all over the place, but Carmella winning is good. I would have liked to see Tamina or Natalya also win. Natalya is, I don't like to say this a lot, but she's one that kind of deserves something like that. She deserves to be recognised as the first ever of something, or a champion once in her life, because she's been in the WWE now for a while. Becky Lynch and Charlotte do not need the Money in the Bank briefcase to be in the title picture. Tamina is probably the second most deserving of the Money in the Bank, close to Natalya, but I think the right choice was Carmella, because Carmella is the crafty one. She's kind of the one that's gonna jump it. She's the new Edge. She's the ultimate opportunist. That's who she is. The finish was fine. I don't care for the finish. The finish was absolutely fine. People are just overreacting to it. So yeah. Anyway, we'll skip the Uso match because I don't really want to talk about the Uso match. Just gonna skip over that one. Naomi versus Lana happened. Naomi won, using that submission she uses, which she hasn't used in like months. This was Lana's first match on SmackDown, second match overall, televised match anyway. The only notable thing about this was that Lana screamed more than she wrestles. And Carmella ran in to basically almost cash in, but then she was like, "No, I don't really want to cash in," and walked off. So yeah, and Naomi was able to win by submission. If Lana gets another match out of this, I don't care, because that match was really boring. It wasn't interesting. Probably half the people that watched this were more distracted by how much Lana was screaming, rather than how much wrestling was going on. As I said, this is kind of a trait, I think, of a lot of I'd say mainly performance center bred men and women that WWE produces. They like to scream and shout a lot. Baron Corbin does it a lot as well. When like in the main event, Baron Corbin was basically doing the same as Lana, just not as much. And then like a pro or someone that's been in the business long enough or longer, like AJ Styles, for example, wasn't, and he was completely silent. But it's just probably the dynamic of WWE's kind of selling, you know, how they train their wrestlers to sell rather than a homegrown or not an independent stars way of wrestling and a way of being trained. Then we had the debut of Mike and Maria Kanellis. Mike Kanellis, previously known as Mike Bennett, was a Ring of Honor and Impact star. In my opinion, he's more of an Impact star because I saw him there longer. And Maria Kanellis was around also in TNA as well, and also in Ring of Honor, and also a bit in New Japan as well. I think Bennett might have gone there as well. But Maria Kanellis was mainly a contestant in Diva Search, mid-2000s, I think. I don't know, I wasn't watching wrestling back then, and the mid-2000s were shit. So, yeah. I don't really know why people are so hyped for this, because Maria Kanellis was never known for her wrestling ability. And I'm not a big fan of Mike Bennett, personally. So, the only thing I like about this whole segment was the music, and the music was very good. It is really corny, but to be honest, I think it will fit them very well. I have seen people talking about these two being the Miz and Maurice at SmackDown Live. That shouldn't happen. Miz and Maurice, while maybe were kind of the backbone of Tuesday nights, they're now on Monday nights, and SmackDown doesn't need a second Mike, and they don't need a second Miz and Maurice. They need someone to take their place in a different way that is equally as entertaining, but not in the same way. Because having entertainment in the same way constantly just bores you, in my opinion. So Mike and Maria Kanellis shouldn't be the same as Miz and Maurice. Mike being called Mike Kanellis and not Mike Bennett is fine, mainly because probably people wouldn't know who he was without that Kanellis name. Like, having them have the same name is better than having them have different names, because people that don't watch Impact, which is a large part of the WWE universe, that don't watch via network or don't go to house shows, whatever, they won't know who Mike Bennett is. So it's a good way of introducing him to the WWE universe. I am shocked that they sent them both to SmackDown and not NXT first, because NXT doesn't need them. The only thing NXT needs is a mid-card title, and that's all it needs currently. It doesn't need anyone else debuting or anyone else being signed. It needs a mid-card title mainly. Then we had, surprisingly, the WWE Championship match between Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton. This match was... people said it was boring. I was looking on Twitter and they were saying it was boring. I'm going to agree, but I think it's not as boring as everyone says it was. It was kind of a slow match. It was a slow-paced match, but I think that's basically because of how Randy Orton is. Randy Orton has been brought up by Bob Orton Jr., and I think that's rubbed off on him in a very large way in terms of his wrestling ability, because he wrestles at a very kind of slow, methodical pace and then busting out the big RKO to finish it. The thing is, Randy Orton doesn't need, in my opinion, to put on amazing matches, because the RKO finish is just like a one and done thing. Jinder Mahal had really good he had a really good in-ring psychology in this match. He was very close to the ropes when he needed to be, and all of that ring psychology. The two sings, I noticed something as well. The one who's got a smaller head, I think his name is Samir. He talks a lot more than the other one, and he's always the mouthpiece of Jinder Mahal. So why should there be two of them? Is it just so that they've got two like goons behind him? They need to enter the tag team scene, I think, at some point, because Breezango's getting really boring. The New Day can only have so many more shots before the Usos win. The Hype Bros, when the Usos lose to the Hype Bros, because they're going to be losing to the Hype Bros, the Hype Bros should eventually lose to the Sings, probably, and because Jinder Mahal's going to hold that title for a while, to Royal Rumble, if not WrestleMania. Maybe not WrestleMania, but probably, around that WrestleMania, the road to WrestleMania. The match was quite good. There were a few legends in the front row of this match. There was Larry Hennig, the grandfather of Kurt Axel, and the father of the other Hennig, whose name has escaped my mind. Kurt Hennig, Sergeant Slaughter, Baron von Baron von something, can't remember his name, and Ric Flair was there as well, and and Bob Orton Jr. was there as well. And the thing is with Bob Orton, it's funny how Bob Orton wasn't announced last, but Ric Flair was, and his son is in the match. Anyway, Orton basically RKO'd both Sings, one through a table, one on the floor, and rolled back in the ring. Mahal attacked him, and then he hit the Kalas, his Cobra Clutch Slam for the 3 count. It's not so much an RKO, more like a worm finisher for Mahal, really. It's not really the best finisher in the world a WWE champion should have. I'm completely for him being the champion, but so far his reign hasn't been very good. As I said, the match was pretty good. Then we had Breezango versus The Ascension. Now this was the match I was talking about before, when it shouldn't have been on the pay-per-view. This match should not have been on the pay-per-view. Before I get into this, I just want to say, at this point in the night, I was falling asleep at everything, so I had to rewatch it today, so I have a fresher memory of these 3 matches I'll be talking about now than the other ones. So, yeah, anyway, Breezango versus The Ascension. This match should not have been on the main card. It shouldn't even been on the kickoff show. It shouldn't have been a thing. They did have an episode of Fuji Vice. They did have a parody of Fuji Vice called Fashion Vice, which was obviously hilarious to me. And basically, over recent weeks, they've been getting attacked, or Tyler Breeze has been getting attacked by someone, or by people backstage, and trashing their area in the Fashion Files. And the Ascension walked out to basically claim responsibility, and I've actually been a fan of the Ascension for a while. They're never going to achieve any success in WWE now, because they're this far into their main roster run. and they're just cannon fodder for rumbles and the average squash match. So they're not going to be pushed anytime soon or at all. But I'm a fan of them, and I think they're good. Victor has a very good running knee, which looks intimidating. Connor also looks very intimidating. But the reception they got at Money in the Bank was really, really bad. It was really, really quiet. It was really, it was probably the worst reaction of the night. Ellsworth got a bigger reaction than the Ascension did. Breezango won when Fandango rolled up one of the Ascension. I think it was Victor, or it could have been Connor. It's one of the two. Choose. It wasn't a very good match. It was kind of boring. It was just kind of a throwaway match that could have been on SmackDown, really. And the final match of the night, which was the men's Money in the Bank ladder match featuring Sami Zayn, Dolph Ziggler, Kevin Owens, Shinsuke Nakamura, Baron Corbin, and AJ Styles. This match was okay. Now, I am a fan of the Royal Rumble. I'm a fan of Survivor Series matches. I'm not a fan of the Money in the Bank match itself. I'm a fan of the idea. I'm not a fan of the match. Because I feel like ladder matches, they're all kind of, I don't want to say they're the same, but they all follow a very similar pattern, and this one did. There weren't that many cool spots. I mean, there was a spot between AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura, which could have been, to some people, the best thing that ever happened, but it wasn't, because, in my opinion, Shinsuke Nakamura is probably the most overrated person on the roster currently. He is boring. He is the most boring person on that roster. And then you have people like Mike Bennett debuting as well. So, Kevin Owens destroyed a ladder when Sami Zayn threw him onto it, which was pretty cool. Before the match even started, Corbin actually destroyed Nakamura, basically because, I imagine because there's been a few interview segments where Corbin's basically been like, you shouldn't be worrying about Nakamura, you should be worrying about the Corbin. Basically, Baron Corbin attacked Shinsuke before the match with a camera, with a one that they film the matches with, one they film the entrances with, whatever. He attacked him with them, laid him out, and Nakamura then reappeared halfway through the match, went after Corbin, and then there was a spot between AJ Styles and him, AJ Styles and Nakamura. They had a bit of a go at it. There was a few other interesting points in the match, such as Ziggler showing how quick he is by running up a ladder and stopping AJ Styles, doing a phenomenal forearm to the outside. Zayn hit Ziggler with a really nice looking powerbomb off the top of the ladder. I don't think Zayn's that good of a wrestler. He is also very boring. He's also, a lot of his moves, I know people when they go to a wrestling show, they go to see, those people, and Ric Flair did say this when talking about Sting, or Sting may have said it when talking about Ric Flair. Ric Flair is basically known to do the same matches with people over and over again, basically because people went to see him, so they're going to do the same match over and over again because they wanted to see him, type of thing. And I understand that's all well and good, but you don't need to do a tope suicida every match. And I know that Kevin Owens put his body on the line for this one, but there wasn't anything really good from him either. The star of this match was probably Corbin, because he was the one highlighted. He was the one that was highlighted for this one. The most memorable thing really was the bit where AJ Styles was hanging onto the briefcase and Dolph Ziggler just pulled the ladder from under him, and then he had to just hang there or fall, and he chose to fall, and it looked really, really devastating when he hit the mat, because it was a very long way down. Stammering there again, and we've nearly finished. This is good podcasting skills. Anyway, basically what happened, Shinsuke and AJ Styles were climbing up the ladder, both fighting on the ladder. Corbin came in, knocked them both up the ladder, climbed the ladder, and became the first, no, not the first ever, sorry, the new Money in the Bank, Mr. Money in the Bank. Again, stumbling over words, near finished. Anyway, this was a good thing. Corbin holding the belt, holding the briefcase is good. It is very good for him. He has been losing matches a lot more frequently than as of late. He didn't win at Mania, which was dumb. In hindsight, potentially the women's match at Mania should have been on the pre-show, because they were going to be doing a title change there anyway. So having Corbin on the main show may have caused them to rethink things. Corbin having being Mr. Money in the Bank could lead to a few other things. We could see him versus Cena, him versus Jinder, which will obviously be match of the year. We could even see him potentially against Nakamura, which I don't really want to see. But yeah, Ziggler looked very good in this match as well. Ziggler came off as really stealthy, but also kind of an idiot at times. But the match was decent for a Money in the Bank match. There wasn't anything like really good, like getting up out of my seat and put my hands in the air type thing. But overall, the entire show was decent. It was a decent enough show. It was okay. There wasn't anything too big that happened. I mean, Mike and Maria debuting was probably the biggest thing that happened in the entire show. There wasn't any title changes. Kevin Owens should have really had a match on this card, because then we wouldn't have Fandango and Tyler Breeze against the Ascension. I do think that maybe Ty Dillinger should have been in the been in the Money in the Bank ladder match, rather than Kevin Owens, because where is Ty Dillinger? Maybe even put Luke Harper in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Maybe have Luke Harper against Kevin Owens. I was pushing for Mojo Rawley versus Kevin Owens for the United States Championship match, because he needs to cash in that Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale trophy on him in the next couple of weeks. Otherwise, they're gonna have to take it off him, because his time with that trophy is run out. You know, a new WrestleMania is coming in about 300 days, so Mojo Rawley better get on that. Overall, the entire card was okay. It wasn't the best pay-per-view I've ever seen. It wasn't the worst pay-per-view I've ever seen either. The best match of the night, in my opinion, was the Usos versus the New Day. It was fun, it was fast, it was everything a tag team match should be. The worst match on the card was probably either Naomi versus Lana or the Breezango Ascension match. Because both matches were kind of boring, but I mean, the Breezango one was more of a throwaway one, which shouldn't have been even on the pay-per-view. I mean, the true best match on the night was, of course, the Hype Bros against the Colognes. But anyway, I think that wraps me up for the Money in the Bank 2017 review. I don't know when I'll be getting this up, but when I do, should be decent. Anyway, thank you for listening to the first ever edition of the Kickin Out Of Kayfabe podcast. Again, I apologise for my stammering, my stuttering, my rambling, and my very dry, monotone voice for this entire thing. Remember, in England there's a little thing called a time difference, and Money in the Bank is on till 4 o'clock in the morning, or a pay-per-view.